sense of belonging. Some people die before they fulfill their desires. Such a waste of existence. Spend our life searching for the sense of belonging. Some people die before they fulfill their desires. Such a waste of existence.
Anxious earth is rising. Anxious earth is rising. I'm so happy.
We spend our life searching for the sense of belonging. Some people die before they fulfill their desires. Such a waste of existence.
Is that not working now? Should have switched it over. Oh, there it is. Hey! Double Triple. This is the Double Triple channel. My name is Ron. I live in rural New Hampshire, surrounded by forests and wild animals and all kinds of stuff. It's pretty cool. Right now I'm surrounded by snow. A lot of people are surrounded by snow right now, unfortunately. That's pretty though. It looks pretty cool. So, yeah, I'm. Let me before I get going. Let me do a sync test. Make sure everything's in sync, or at least the audio is in sync with the video. The way I do it is I clap, and then I run in the next room. It's complicated. Here we go. Ready? All right. Unfortunately, that wasn't even close. I don't know why it does that. All right. So we got to come in here, and we gotta check. Let's see. Sorry. If you're watching, oh yeah, if this is a live recording, right? It's Wednesday on July 28th. So sync offset. Okay, I'm not sure if this means delay or what. Let me go. Okay, that wasn't even close, so let's try 900 there. All right. All right, we're going to try this again and see if we're a little bit closer to being in sync here. Oh, wow. That was really close. That was really close. I don't know if my mouth is moving right. If the sound is going with my mouth, that's what I want to try to get, because that's, you ever watch somebody where it's off it and they're talking and the sound isn't quite, matched up with their mouth, and it's like, I don't know, All right, let me try this again one more time. All right, we got it. And it'll probably get out of sync before the stream's over, so sorry about that. All right, so this is kind of a weird time that I'm doing this stream. It's 4:25 right now, 4:26 Eastern Standard Time. And it's 7.5 degrees C right now in this room. Last night I almost killed my plants. It got down to, in fact, some of them might not even make it. I don't know. But it got down to, I woke up at 4 in the morning or 5 in the morning or something like that. And I looked and I got a remote thermometer so I can monitor the temperature in this room from my warm room. And I woke up and it was it said 0.8 degrees or something like that. I go, oh my God, I better get in here. So I had to come in here and, do stuff. Basically, I open up the door, and anyway, it's kind of complicated. It got to the point where I had to start using joule heating. If you're science, joule heating just means running electricity through a resistor and making heat, like this. This is joule heat. I just turned it on. So that's the problem. Is last night I was using this. This is joule heat too. This is the old style bulb, the incandescent bulbs. So that's says 100 watt. It's only about 80 watt. But that's what I was using last night. Was that light bulb? Apparently that wasn't enough to keep this room warm, at least keep it above freezing. So I had to use other measures. And fortunately, we had some sun this morning. Yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube or on a recording somewhere on the VOD, this is kind of the BS section of the stream. So if you tuned in, you wanted to learn about democracy or war with Canada or anything else I got typed in the title of this stream, we'll get to that. But this is just kind of BS for a little bit until people notice the stream and maybe get more people in here or whatever. So fortunately today we had sun. We had sun almost all day. The sun went away about 1 o'clock or something like that. So it was, I open up all the windows and do all that and get sun in here. So it warmed up. It warmed up a little bit, and we got up 7.5, 7.7. It just was 7.5. So it's it's warm enough to do a stream. That's C, 7.5 C, and that's so in Fahrenheit, I guess that's 45, I guess, or something like that, 45 degrees. I don't know. So I don't know how long I'm gonna be able to sit in here and do this stream at 45 degrees, and it's getting colder and colder outside. It's about minus 10 right now, C outside, which is what, 14 degrees, I guess. Did I do my math right? 14 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's dropping. So it's supposed to get to minus 3 Fahrenheit. And it's always colder here for some reason than what the weatherman says. So it's going to be below that. It's going to be, probably minus 5 or something. And it was last night. It got down to minus 26. I don't know what that is. That's minus 10, I guess, 13, something like that. So yeah, it's going to be cold. It's going to be really cold tonight. All right, so let's see. Ads. Did we run an ad yet? It probably ran an ad when I wasn't paying attention there, I think. Yeah, my ad manager isn't even working here, so I can't even tell if we're running ads or not, which is kind of. So during the stream, I'm going to stop whenever the ad plays, and I'm thinking about it. I'm going to run the ad. Stop. It's still not going. I don't know what's going on here. Huh. So when I know if I see it here, or if somebody says, "Hey, an ad's running" or whatever, then I'll stop the stream. Let me reload this page and see what that does. So we're going to talk about mostly new, stuff's been going on, right? So want to talk about that, and I called C-SPAN a while back. Maybe I should play my C-SPAN call. I did that a few weeks ago before the shit hit the fan. Yeah, for some reason this ad manager is not telling me, when the ad's going to start. So that's going to be difficult if I can't tell when the ads are coming up at all. It's bad enough to begin with. So if it doesn't, if I can't tell when the ads are coming up, that's going to be a problem. It says ad starts in 12 hours and 10 minutes. What does that mean? Why would that be? Okay. Oh, you know what it might be? Okay, I think I know what it is. I think I know what the problem is. All right, this is good. I might lose my stream here. Hang on. That time's wrong. My time on my computer's wrong. That's why the time on the stream here is wrong. Let me see if I can fix that while the stream's going. If not, we'll be in trouble. All right, did that fix it? Did we lose the stream? Did it fix the time? Oh, I think it hung up. Shit. Okay, I think I broke it. Oh, there it goes. Maybe I should restart the stream. Oh, there it goes. Okay, it's working now. Okay. There we go. Now we got the right time on there. Okay. And I bet my ad manager will work. Yep, my ad manager is working now. Okay, that was the problem. I changed the time on the... I try to change the time right before the start of the stream. To make sure my clock is right and all that. Because it gets off. And I typed in 4 whatever it was, 4:10 or whatever, whenever I was changing it, and it's actually 16:10 here. So, right, because it's PM, right? All right, we're up to 8 degrees. All right, it's warming up. And I've got 8.5 minutes before the next ad. All right, that's enough time to get into something here. All right, so the name of the stream is Democracy versus Autocracy. Autocracy. Spelled A-talk crazy, right? War with Canada, how to get rid of POTUS, and IRL snow. So let me start with the IRL. We'll do that first because that's a little late, and then we'll get into the heavier stuff a little bit later. So I'll play some videos here. So this video here is, you see that video? No, you can't see it. Of course you can't see it. There we go. Now you can see it. So here's my front yard. This was a couple days ago, I guess. When we had the storm went for like a couple days. It was a really long, big storm. Dumped a lot of snow. I guess we had a little snow last night. Still getting a little snow. Yeah, it's coming down a little bit there. Boat. Maybe we should take that boat out this weekend. Yeah. All right. All right. So that was that one. And then so that's my front yard, right? We got a little bit of snow there. My car got covered. And I haven't dug out my car because I want to keep it under the snow for insulation, you know. I think the storm's over. There's another one. Whoops, shit, this one didn't go. Hang on just a second. So then later on that evening, we got this. It was finally let up a little bit. At least they plowed the road. That's good. All right. Why did it do that? Don't do that. Why does it do that? You know what it is? I have that thing set up so it'll if the key for you don't need to know. It doesn't matter. It's a technical thing. I accidentally hit the wrong key sometimes, and that little alert pops up. All right. One more video here. One more video. All right. Let's play one more video. Okay, this was the next morning after that. So, got a little snow. Yeah, this was the next morning. Let's see if I can get that one up here. All right, there we go. So this is the next morning. And I was going to try to do a video of me driving the car right out of the snow, but it didn't work. So I'll just show you just part of this video here. Got a little snow last night. And my little electric car got covered in snow. I want to see how good a 13-year-old electric car does in the snow. So we're going to find out. It does pretty good in the snow too. So I basically have left it covered up like that. Except today I scraped off just the windshield of it. I took the snow off the windshield. That way the sun will get into the car and heat it up, and that'll help,
Minus 25 last
help the
night.
battery a little bit
Celsius.
so it doesn't get cold all the time.
It's warmed up now. This is about the warmest part of the day right now. It's minus 9, I guess, right now.
So that's
Celsius.
all right. So that's my car. Anyway, that's enough of that, I guess. So that's yeah, we got a little bit of snow. Little bit of snow there. Which is I scooped some of it. The cool thing about it is that this snow is this snow came down when it was very cold, and it's really very, very fluffy, light snow, which is good, right? That's it's good for insulation. So I've taken it and went around the house and shoveled it all up against the house for more insulation, because there's a little part of my house near the basement that's not insulated. It's just bare brick, which is not good when it's minus 26 outside. So I scooped all that snow up around the house, so hopefully it will stay a little bit warmer tonight. I did a little bit of it last night, and or yesterday, and that helped a little bit. But now I did the whole house, so it should stay a little bit warmer. It's minus 10 now, minus 10.3 out there, so it'll continue to go down over the stream here. But yeah, it's going to take a long time for me to dig out that car. Fortunately, I don't have to drive it here for a few days yet. Probably another week I probably won't even drive it. So I'll just leave it covered up like that. I used to have I still do have a cover, but I haven't been using it. Cover and special insulation and stuff that I use to try to keep the battery warm when it gets cold, And that battery has held up really good. That car's 13 years old, and it still gets the advertised range, even in winter. Even it's below freezing outside, I can still get in the car, and if I drive slow enough, I can get the advertised range for the car, which is really cool. So that's pretty good. It's a little bit less than what it was. It's gone down a little bit. When I first got it, I got it used, but then I put a new battery in it because the battery was bad when I bought it. Anyways, long story, but I tested the battery and I got 95 miles out of it. Remember, this is a 13-year-old car, right? Before because the range has been going up every year. The range goes up a little bit more, So 13 years ago, it was not. It was one of the first electric cars they ever had, And so I was able to get 95 miles out of it, and it's rated for 62, but I was able to get 95 out of it. Now I think I tried maybe a year ago or less, this summer or something, and I was able to get like 80 or something out of it. And then in the winter, then it's lower. It's only like 62 or 65 or whatever. Got my hot chocolate here. It's cold already. Let me warm that up. I cooked it in a. Hang on. Be right back. Yeah, I use my measuring cup. That works really good as a cup. I don't like using the like a mug, or stuff, because they paint them or something. Mugs that you get, like coffee mugs and stuff like that. They're like, they paint them and coat them with stuff, and who knows what they put in them. So I just use a measuring cup, or glass Pyrex measuring cup. So that's shouldn't be anything that leaches into it that way. So, all right. So I've got an ad in progress. Ad will be back in just a second here. Okay, 30 seconds, 15 seconds, something like that. Okay, 10 seconds. All right, I got my hot chocolate now warmed up in the microwave, which will help me stay warm here. Now it's too hot to drink. Okay. All right, I think the ad's over. So, all right, let's get back to business here. So, democracy versus, I said autocracy, right? Because you get it. Autocracy. Autocracy is it's like a dictatorship or autocratic, authoritarian, whatever you want to call it, regime, which is unfortunately what we got right now. They're not following the Constitution or anything. They're not following the laws. They're not doing all this stuff, and so now we got a dictator and we got a autocracy. We got an authoritarian government. So we need to figure out how to get rid of that, right? How to take the regime down. And if you're watching mainstream media, they're all acting like everything's normal, right? They'll report the news. They'll report, oh yeah, another person got shot today. Isn't that terrible? And now on, let's talk about these puppies or something. It's they're and even I watched. I normally don't watch listen to what the politicians say, but I watched a hearing today. Rubio was in a hearing, giving how they talk in front of the Senate. Some of the cabinet people will sit down and talk to the Senate and or Congress or whatever in these hearings. And I normally ignore those because they're at the point now where there's no correlation whatsoever between what they do and what they say they're going to do, or what the reality is and what they say the reality is and stuff like that. There's zero correlation. So I normally just ignore that. I ignore what they say and just look at what they do, what's going on, like that, what actually happens. But I watched it today. And the senators and everything were just talking to him like, like it was a normal, we have questions about, Venezuela and what happened there and blah, 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 And like one of them said, okay, you took Maduro out and, right, we had recognized the other one. What's her name? Gonzalez, I think it is. The one who everybody says actually won the election. And so up until we went into Venezuela, that's who we were saying was the real one, right? The leader of the thing. And Maduro was not the legitimate leader. So, right, we went in and took out Maduro. So we're democracy, right? Or we're supposed to be. We're supposed to support democracy. We should put the one who won the election back in power, right? No, they didn't do that. They left the same guys in power. They took the leader, but all his cronies and everything are still running the show, and that's who apparently we're recognizing now. I don't know. I don't know how to do that. I'm going to type in right now. I'm going to go to let's see. Google maybe. Let's see. Oh, let me go to Copilot, and I'm going to type in. Yeah. All right. Let me see if I can bring this up here. All right. A few more clicks. Hang on. Copilot. There we go. All right. You see that? Yeah, you can see that, right? Yeah, I think you can see that. So here's Copilot, right? And so I'm going to ask Copilot just to see what it says. Say, who is the leader of oh God, Venezuela. I think that's how you spell it. Let's see what it says. Rodriguez, who was sworn in as the country's interim president on January 5th after Maduro was captured by U.S. forces. Current leadership in Venezuela. Interim president. Okay. All right. Previously served as vice president, backed by Venezuelan military during the transition. Context. All right. We know the context, right? All right. So this is who Mr. AI is saying is okay. So let me say. Okay. Who did the U.S. recognize as the leader of Venezuela last year? Let's see. And let's see what it says. Gonzalez, yeah, okay. Last year, okay. This recognition was tied to this disputed election, right? Okay. Okay, because he got most of the vote. He got right. U.S. referred to him as the rightful next president and supported his international outreach efforts. Blah blah blah. Gonzalez was treated as the president-elect in exile, meeting with foreign leaders. Okay. If you want, I can also map out how U.S. recognition shifted after Maduro's capture. Yes, please. I'm going to ask it that. Yes. Please map that out. Let's see if it... Below is a clean, structured map of how U.S. recognition of Venezuela's leadership shifted over the past several years. No, not years. Come on. Minutes. All right. Disputed Venezuela election. We get that. Okay. U.S. recognizes Gonzalez as the leader. Okay. January. Maduro captured. Delcy Rodriguez becomes interim leader. Maduro was detained by U.S. forces in early January 26. Venezuela's internal institutions elevated Rodriguez to interim president. The U.S. position after Maduro's capture shifted toward supporting a transition process, continuing to treat Gonzalez as the legitimate electoral victor and acknowledging Rodriguez as the de facto authority inside Venezuela during the transition. It makes a table. So Mr. AI makes a table. Dual track stance. It's like, what the hell? All right. So you see what's going on there, right? That's not good. That's not good. We're supposed to be supporting democracies, and we went in, we got Maduro, but now we support a different dictator or a different, illegitimate leader, because the oil companies want us to do that. That's what the oil companies want, basically, right? That's why that's happened. So that's kind of crazy. I don't understand. I understand why they're. I mean, I do understand, right? But I don't understand why this. They were questioning Rubio in the Senate today, and they said, "Well, this isn't right. We took out a dictator, and now we're supporting this other illegitimate dictator who didn't win any election. But the one who won the election was Gonzalez. Why aren't we supporting? Blah blah blah." And he just gave a BS answer about transition and things should be different. It was just blah blah blah. So basically, that's what the oil companies wanted, and that's virtually all our wars now are about oil, or petroleum products. Minerals, they call it. Minerals, something you take out of the ground. So when somebody says mineral, if they're talking about some country and say, "Oh, it's about the minerals. We want minerals or whatever," that just substitute oil for minerals. That's what it means. They use the word mineral when they don't want you to think that they're talking about oil. That's why they do that. All right. So we got a problem. We got. We have a government, a talk crazy government that is attacking our allies, killing citizens on the street, and threatening to attack our closest ally, Canada. And threatening to attack Denmark, the territory of Denmark, Greenland. So why is this guy still president? Okay, the only reason why he's still president is because Congress wants him to be president. Even Democrats want him to be president. As far as I can tell, because there is not a single Democrat. There's not a single. I know we don't say Democrat or Republican. I don't like to differentiate between there. They're just politicians in Washington, and it doesn't. To me, it's just there's no difference between them at all. So there is not a single senator who supports democracy anymore. Because if they did, they would get Trump. They would get Trump out, right? They would remove him from office, and they can do that. And then today, and this I could not fathom at all. Schumer, Senator Schumer, he's supposed to be the top guy for the Democrats in the Senate. He stood up. I saw him today just by chance. I wasn't trying to watch this stuff. I just happened to be, it was he came on after something else or after C-SPAN or I don't know what it was, after the Washington Journal, the call-in show or something, and he was there, and he said, "Oh, we've got a package of spending bills," and he said we should approve them. The Senate, he said, the Senate should approve them. In other words, what he said is, yeah, we got a dictator running our country who is killing our citizens and trying to make war against our allies. And by the way, let's send him some more money so he can do these evil things. That's what he said. That's what Schumer said, out loud, on the floor of the Senate. Okay? So they want that. You got to look at where they put their money, right? Put your money where your mouth is. They are putting the money into a dictator. If they pass these bills, if they do these spending bills, they're saying, yes, Trump, we approve of what you're doing. Here's some more money. That's what they're doing. It's just crazy. I just, we can't do violence, right? You don't want to do that. The only thing we can do is not work anymore. Stop working. Call your boss right now. What is it, 5 o'clock before you leave work? Tell your boss, sorry boss, I don't want to support a dictator. I'm not coming back. I'm not going to work until the dictator's gone. That's one. Number one. Number two is stop buying shit. Don't go and buy stuff except what you absolutely need, your food, or shelter or whatever, electric bill or whatever, if you can even afford that, right? And then number three is don't personally send them any money. It's tax, right? Tax time. Don't send them any tax money. There are all kinds of different loopholes and shit, in the tax system that you can use. Just stretch and bend the rules as much as you can to get to, so you don't pay and you don't send them any more money. All the wealthy people do that. They use all these loopholes and shit so they don't pay taxes. So you do it too. All right, we got an ad coming up here, so we're gonna wait for the ad, and then I'll be back and we'll talk about a couple other things you can do. Maybe I'll do an analysis here too of. All right, it says ad starting. So I'm going to check my sync again because I did a whole bunch of different shit here. So hang on just a second. Yep, ads in progress. So we've got another minute or so. Wish I could do something about those. Appears to be in sync, so I guess we're okay. All right, it says 15 seconds. Okay. All right. Yeah, so they, a lot of people got upset, right? Mostly because they're killing our citizens in the street. So people were getting upset about that, and Congress and the media and all that, instead of doing something about it, they're giving it lip service. They're saying, "Oh, this is terrible. We don't want this." Blah 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 blah. And then behind the scenes here, they're sending more money to the dictator. So I mean, you call your senators right now. I mean, everybody should be calling their senators and telling them not to approve any of these spending bills, especially Department of Homeland Security and Department of Defense. They shouldn't fund those at all until the dictator's out of office. You know, all they need is supposedly, you know, if they did an impeachment right now, supposedly, right, the Democrats would vote to take him out. But, you know, at this point, I think if half the Republicans voted to take him out, I think some of the Democrats would not vote to take him out, because they support him. Based on what they're doing, they support him. So that's really bad that we gotta. And you know if what he's doing, let me let's do some analysis here. I'll do some analysis. All right, let's do some analysis. Right, we got. All right, so here's the globe, right? We got the U.S. here and Canada, and then way over here is Greenland, right? See that? Let's see that. So there's U.S. Here's U.S. Getting that right? U.S. and then Canada, and way up here. Somewhere there's Greenland, right? And Greenland is belongs to Denmark, which is over here. Where are we at here? Over here in Europe, right? This is a territory of Denmark. So Trump wants to invade Greenland, right? He says he's going to invade Greenland. He also said he's going to invade Canada. He said he wants to make Canada the 51st state. So he wants to invade Canada. So his plan was how do you do that, right? Without, you know, the way he's doing it. Okay, it's like why did he pick Minnesota for the ice thing? Right, to start killing people and stirring things up. Well, it's because Minnesota. Let's see where Minnesota is right here. You notice Minnesota is right on the border with Canada. So what he's doing is he's sending ice in there, because he can do that without anybody at all. So he sends in ice in there, tells them to kill some people and stir some things up. And they do that. They go in there and they kill some citizens, and they get things stirred up, and they try to get people upset enough that he starts a fight, right, and starts unrest. And then once that happens, then he says, "Oh, insurrection. Okay, I want to send in the troops now. I'm going to send in our military." And so he piles a bunch of our military into Minnesota on the border of Canada. You see what's going on here now? So he gets a ton of military on the border with Canada. And what's Canada going to do? Right? What are they going to do? Their neighbor, who they thought was their friend, has just said that they want to make them part of their country, right? From Canada's standpoint, right? Canada's saying, "Hey, the U.S., we thought the U.S. was our friend, but the president of the U.S. said that he wants to make us the part of the U.S. He wants to, attack us and turn us into another state." And then they get a bunch of military on the border in Minnesota. So then Canada puts their military on the other side of the border, and maybe tries to get help from Europe or something like that. And before you know it, somebody shoots or fires a missile or does something across the border there, or an RPG or something, and boom, we're at war with Canada. That's his plan. That's what he's trying to execute step by step. That's what he was trying to do. That's why he picked Minnesota, right? I mean, they're right there. They're undocumented immigrants all over the country, right? But he's stirring up in Minnesota because it's on the border of Canada. And why do they want to do that? It's the oil, right? Canada has a whole bunch of oil. In Alberta, anyway. That's not where Minnesota is, but over here on the other side, it's there's a ton of oil. Also, right next to Minnesota, you got Detroit, right, real close to there, where they build electric cars. Right, the oil companies don't like electric cars. They want to stop electric cars. So if he starts a war with Canada in that region, then that's those factories are targets, and you can get false flag or whatever you can to take out the electric car shipping electric cars. That's plus stop the oil. So here, I'll keep this out. I got more stuff I want to talk about. So that's what's going on there. That's why it's in Minnesota, is because it's right in the middle of Canada there, on the border of Canada, and he can start a war with Canada, our ally, and a member of NATO. Same with Denmark. Same deal. I think I don't look up. I want to find out how. Let's do a Mr. AI here on how much oil there is in ice and Greenland. Let's do that. All right. All right, Mr. AI. Let's see. How much oil reserves? Well, let's say petroleum. And reserves are in Greenland. Let's see what it says. Basins are estimated to contain between 4 and 13 billion barrels of unrisked, recoverable petroleum resources, depending on the basin and the assessment. These figures come independent value. Okay, wow, estimate 13 billion barrels. Broader Greenland, multiple basins, 4 billion barrels. Cross there. Okay, so let's see. Important notes. These numbers represent perspective, not proven. Okay. It said unrisked, though. Greenland has no commercial oil production and has maintained a ban on new oil licensing since 21. Though exploration interest has recently revived. Ding, ding, ding. Ding, ding, ding. Okay. Okay. So that's a lot of oil, right? Billions of barrels, and it's just sitting there, and they're not pumping it. So that's probably the reason why they want to go in there. One of the reasons, at least. They talk about the Arctic shipping lanes and all that kind of stuff, but that's, if there's that ocean current that is keeping Greenland and Iceland and Europe warm. There's an ocean current that flows, in the Atlantic, and some scientists are saying there's a possibility that global warming could disrupt that, and if that happened, then it would get even colder there instead of warmer. So that would be weird, wouldn't it? That would change things. Another thing that's going on is that we got these oil wars. We always have oil. Most of the wars are because of oil. So virtually all of them. Like when we went into Iran, right? We said, Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction, and that was a lie. We lied about it in order to get allies and stuff to help us to take out Saddam Hussein. And the reason they did that was because Saddam Hussein was selling oil on the market against sanctions that we had in place. You know, they put sanctions on him so that he wouldn't sell his oil, because they didn't. The more oil that goes on the market, the more oil that's produced, the lower the price, supply and demand, right? And if the price goes down, then all these existing countries that have oil production and sell oil, their oil is worth less then. So usually what happens in these oil wars is that they go in and they it's not that they go in to take the oil, they go in to take the oil off the market. And that's what happened with Iraq. We went in there and they lit all the oil, you know, a lot of the oil wells on fire and just burned the oil off, and it took them a long time to get them back into production, stuff like that. So that was the objective of that invasion of Iraq, was to take their oil production out, because they had a whole bunch of oil and they were producing oil and they weren't paying attention to what OPEC said, you know, and they were producing more oil. And so the U.S. went in and took them out. And now we got the same thing. We got a guy here who is openly taking bribes from Middle Eastern or from Arab countries, right? And so Saudi Arabia, UAE, all these over here. See that? Oh, you can see that. You can see that pretty good, can't you? There's Saudi Arabia and UAE, Qatar, all these. He's opening. The UAE gave Donald Trump a plane, a jumbo jet, a plane, right? A jumbo jet, a big billion-dollar plane or whatever, billions of dollars. Gave it to him. And he's getting all kinds of bribes from them. So, you know, my guess is they send him. They tell him what to do. You know, they say, "Hey, you want another couple $100 million? Say this," and he says it. You know, that's what's going on. The other thing that's going on. So like Iraq, Iran, Syria, Yemen. You know, these are all places where there's oil. You know, and Niger, you know, all these places is where there's oil, and that's why we get involved in those places, and why wars get started. And it's usually to take the oil off the market. It's not to grab the oil, you know, like we're saying we're doing in Venezuela. It's to take the oil off the market, or at least control it. So, I've got an ad coming up in about 40 seconds here. So that's the problem, you know. And after the ad here, I'll explain something that's even more wild than that. It has to do with the U.S. and U.S. production of oil, and one of the reasons why we're having a lot of the problems that we're having right now. But I'll explain that after the ad, which should be starting here in just a few seconds. Okay, it says the ad is running now. All right, we'll be back in a few seconds. If you're on the you're right. If you're watching this on the video, just fast forward. Right, you're gonna have to do it, right? Oh, it says ad starting soon. Okay, ad in progress. Okay, maybe it didn't start yet. I don't know. It says a minute and a half. So we got a minute and a half still. Let me do that. Twitch ads are playing. I forgot to do that. I should do that. Should be some way to automate that. Yeah, it's pretty cold. Okay, it says they're done. So, all right. So yeah, in the oil industry, there's not a whole lot of daylight between the oil industry and the military industrial complex. What do you call it? It's pretty much the same thing at this point. Historically, the oil industry, they had to take oil in a lot of different places that might be, unsettled or whatever anyway. And so they ended up getting into business of security and, rent an army, so there's a lot of going back and forth and, revolving door type stuff going on between the military and the oil industry. And so it's and the private militaries, the rent a soldier type or rent an army companies. So that's it's kind of been like that anyway, and it's not something that's like a fixed associated with any particular country. It's an international thing, and so whenever a country gets where they're putting a lot of oil on the market, then that country becomes a target of this of the oil industry to try to stop that country from making too much oil and suppressing the price of oil. And after the war in Iraq and the price, of course, that was successful, quote unquote, in the eyes of the oil industry, because the price of oil went way, 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 way up after that, because we took Iraq's oil off the market. And when that happened, when the price of oil went really, really high, then a whole bunch of folks in the United States said, "Oh, we got all this shale up in North Dakota, South Dakota, or whatever, up in that area," which is another strategic reason why Minnesota is good, because it's right next to the Dakotas where they do the shale, right? So, and so that became, with the price of oil being higher, then they were able to get oil from the shale and other technologies that were not cost effective when the price of oil was lower. But once the price of oil went higher, then those technologies became more competitive. And what happened was the U.S., which was a net importer of oil, after the Iraq War, we became a net exporter of oil, and we're the largest producer of oil now in the world. And And so what does that mean? That means we become a target. The U.S. is a target now of, Saudi Arabia and all the rest of them, OPEC, and who want to stop us from making too much oil. So that's a contributing factor in all of this. And so I can see a plan where they would want to, get Dumbo in office and pay him a couple $100 million to get him to do some to stir up things in Minnesota, start a war with Canada, and have it spill over and end up taking out the electric cars and take out this shale in the Dakotas, because that's all in that same area there. That's I could see that, right? and that would take that would because if that's and then also they could, since Canada was involved, they could take out Canada's oil production too, and in Alberta and stuff. They could spread it over there. So that's it's we view this always as from, there's some other country somewhere in the other part of the world that gets invaded and gets disrupted and stuff because they're the ones who produce oil and they want to take it. Well, now we're the target because we're the ones who are producing the most oil in the world. So if they took the U.S. oil production out, then that would make the price of oil go really high, right? If they reduced our oil production by a significant amount. So I think that might be what's happening too. I don't know. Trump probably doesn't see that. I doubt it. I don't know if he sees that or not. He's probably just taking, these folks in Saudi Arabia and UAE and all this obviously have his ear and have his pocket, and they're filling his pocket with money and saying, here's another 100 million, start a war with Canada, here's another 100 million. Okay. And here's how you do it. And, you can start with ice, stir things up, get conflict going enough to where you can declare an emergency and send in troops, and then you got a whole pile of troops on the border of Canada, and then Canada isn't going to sit there and let that be, and they're going to pile their troops on the border, and then we're at war, right there, very conveniently, right in between Detroit, where they're making all the electric cars, and Dakotas, where they got the shale oil production and all that. So, with a country that's also a very big, producer of oil. So if the U.S. and Canada went to war, that could potentially take a lot of oil off the market, and it would make Saudi Arabia and UAE and Qatar and all those other countries and Russia would make their oil a lot more valuable to them. So that's part of it. That's part of what's going on too. And then of course you just Trump is just he's drunk with power. He's just that's his one of the things that just drives him, right? This money and power. That's what drives him. Democracy or anything like that, rule of law, any of that is just not even on his radar. That's not even his thing. He wants more money. He wants more power. So if UAE or Saudi Arabia or somebody like that give him a couple $100 million and says, "Hey, do this," he's going to do it. He doesn't care. So that's a whole bunch of it, and the problem is whenever this happens, whenever we have he does some wacko thing like that, and there's no consequence for it, and everybody just kind of moves on to something else and doesn't. What it does is it normalizes that. Whatever it is that he did gets normalized. So now he's Like they're killing people, killing American citizens in Minnesota, and nothing's going to happen about it, right? Maybe they'll switch out, somebody, DHS or somebody who's running ICE or whatever. They switch them out, but they're still going to continue. It's going to normalize that thing, unless there's actual, unless the Senate says no, we're not going to give you any more money, to do this, then it's gonna continue. Same with Department of Defense. If he uses the Department of Defense to attack Venezuela, and there's no consequence to that, they don't impeach him, they don't do anything, they don't cut off funding to DOD or anything like that, then he's going to continue doing it. And they can't make rules, right? He's not following rules anymore. He's not following the law anymore. There's no, that doesn't matter to him. So if they pass a law that says, "Oh, Trump, you got to do this first, or you can't, you can't invade Greenland." We're passing a law that says you can't invade Greenland. He's got the money, he's got the army, he could do it, right? He doesn't care. I don't know what's going on in the army. I don't know. I suspect that some of these things that he has tried to do, he's gotten pushback from generals in the army and stuff, saying, "Hey, that's illegal. We're not going to follow an unlawful order." I suspect that's happening, and but we should know that, right? We're in a democracy. It's supposed to be transparent. You're supposed to see what's going on with stuff like that, and we don't know that. We don't know if there are generals in the army that have told him, "No, I'm not gonna. We're not gonna invade Greenland. We're not gonna invade Canada or whatever." I don't know. I don't know if they are or not, and we don't have any real, media that's supporting democracy anymore. In the mainstream media, we got some smaller, people like streamers, right? Those small streamers with a dozen viewers or whatever, But yeah, it's pretty bad. So yeah, we could be just a few weeks away from war with Canada if they continue down that, right? If he sends the army, military into Minnesota. I mean, what would you, if you were Canada, what would you do? Yeah, you're gonna say, "Hey, we're gonna put troops on the other side of the border," of course. So we could be weeks away from war with Canada. So now, how do you get rid of them, right? There's several ways to get rid of a president, legal and illegal ways to do it. Oh, we got chatter. Orange Hue says he's only there with support of his party. No, it's not just his party that supports him. It's all of them. It's all of them that support him. I just earlier, I don't know if you were here, Orange Hue, but I saw today Chuck Schumer stand up on the Senate floor and say, "Hey, let's pass all these spending bills and give Trump more money to do shit with." Today, Chuck Schumer, the leader of the Democrats. So it's not just his party; it's all of them. It's all of the politicians in Washington. It's not the Democrats versus the Republicans. No. It's the 202 area code versus the people. That's what it is. Let's see. Orange Hue says they could decide we've had enough. Yeah, I had enough a long time. I had enough in 2016. So I don't know what they're doing. It says right now they seem to accept the chaos. Yeah, all of them, not just the Republicans. All of them. You don't listen to what they say. They're going to give it lip service, right? They're going to say stuff, but you look at what they're doing. They haven't done anything. They haven't impeached anybody. You haven't, done anything to do anything. They're not threatening to impeach anybody. They're not threatening to take them out or anything. Well, maybe later. I wrote a letter to the editor back in 2016 when Trump first took office about how, predicting all this that was going to happen. I should read that. Maybe I can find that. Maybe I can read that letter that I wrote. Yeah, so there are ways to get rid of them, right? Impeachment, right? That's one way to do it. All you would need is, let's see, you need 2/3, so you need, about 12 Republicans or something like that, or whatever the number is. But like I said, if that happened, some of the Democrats would vote against it because they they won. But that's one. You're just looking at just legally what happens. You can impeach, right? Okay. A majority of the House impeaches the president, or both of them, right? Maybe they do Vance and Trump, and impeach them, and then it goes to the Senate. And then they have a quote unquote trial. I don't know. and then the senators vote whether they were going to, if they convict. And they need 2/3 to do that, to convict and remove them from office. And they could remove both of them, and then we'd have a President Johnson, right? Mike Johnson. I wonder what they believe that makes them think the destruction of U.S. democracy will end positively. Well, it's positive for them, right? For the billionaires and stuff. They don't. It's positive for them because they have more power then, right? They don't have to contend with, if they want to do something, they don't have to get, millions of people to agree to it. They just do it. That's how dictatorships work. So, but that's where we're at, man. And as I said, the way to stop it is, one, stop working. Call your boss and say, I'm not coming in until we have a democracy, restored. Stop buying shit. Don't buy things, just essential stuff. Don't give them any more taxes. Figure out a way to, get your deductions, exemptions, whatever you need, so that you don't send them any more money in taxes. Call your senator, but it's not going to do any good. You call your senators and tell them that you want them gone. Tell them, very importantly, right now they have all the leverage. Right now, Congress has the leverage over the president because there are appropriation bills. Appropriation bills mean spending the money. In order for the president to do anything, it takes money, right? And the only way he can spend the money is if Congress appropriates the money. In other words, they pass a bill that says, okay, you can spend the money on these things. And they list the things that they can spend with, and under the conditions and all that it could be done. So, and there are a whole bunch of them that are coming up. Another couple of days, the continuing resolutions expire, and if they don't, this government shutdown, you may have heard about that. That's when they don't fund it. If Congress doesn't pass these bills, then they have to shut the government down, parts of it, right? The non-essential parts of government get shut down. So, and if the government gets shut down, we got an ad break? Oh, shit. Oh, God damn it. I missed the ad break. Sorry. All right. All right, it should be back now. It should be back on again. All right, where did we get cut off at? So right now Congress has all of the power, all the leverage right now, because there are appropriation bills that are pending in Congress And if they don't pass them, then Trump doesn't get any more money and he can't do evil shit, right? So if they, it's okay. We just came back. Okay, great. Thank you, Snowy City, and welcome to the stream. So in the Senate, that's where the most of the leverage is, because in order to get something done, if one senator filibusters it, then they need 60 votes in order to pass the appropriations bill, to pass the bill to spend the money. So that's where all the leverage is. That's who you need to talk to is your senators. That's who you need to call and to tell them, no, please do not send any more money to this dictator. Do not give this dictator any more money, because that's essentially support. If they pass a bill to spend money on stuff, that's support. They're supporting the dictator, So tell them, no, don't pass those appropriation bills until Trump has been removed. And I was going through. You said only buy essentials. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Don't buy just crap that you don't just. It's a boycott. So a general boycott. You got to buy. You have to have food, right? You got to have shelter. You got to have utilities, but beyond that, maybe you got some other essentials. I don't know. Not much after that. You decide for yourself, right? But just keep in mind that every dollar you spend is supporting a dictator. Every hour you work is supporting a dictator. Every dollar in taxes that you send in to the government is supporting a dictator. So, think about it. So the way to get rid of you do an impeachment. That requires a majority in the House to vote to impeach. Then it goes over into the Senate, and in the Senate they need 2/3 of them to vote to actually get him out of office. And I think they should do both of them. They should do Trump and Vance at the same time. And then Mike Johnson, the leader of the House, then would be the president. At that point, we'd have President Johnson. If Johnson didn't do it, if Johnson didn't want to do that, didn't want to be president, then it would be the Senate majority, the leader of the Senate, which is, I forget who that is. And then after that, then it would be Marco Rubio, who's the Secretary of State, who's the next one in line. But, so that's one way to do it. The other way to do it is the 25th Amendment. And the 25th Amendment is, here, I'll bring that up here so you can see that. 25th Amendment to the Constitution. Okay, let me bring that up here. There we go. Oh, I should have. Okay. So it says in case. So what happens is, the 25th Amendment had to do with succession, right? What happens when the president dies, or the vice president, and all that. But it also has a provision in here for saying that the president, if the president is wacko or something, or he's injured or whatever, he's not dead, but he's unable to be president anymore, and he's not able or doesn't have the capacity to resign himself, then so there's a way that the president can step aside temporarily. That's what this is. The president transmits to the present tempora of the Senate and the Speaker of the House his written declaration that he's unable to discharge the. So the president can voluntarily do that and kind of temporarily let the vice president act as president. That provision wasn't in the Constitution, but then they put that in there with the 25th Amendment. But then this one here, whenever the vice president and a majority of either the principal officers of the executive departments or such other body as Congress may by law provide, transmit to the president pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives their written declaration that the president is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the vice president shall immediately resume the powers and duties of the office as acting president. So, in other words, the cabinet, right? All the cabinet members, you know, all the they say principal officers of the executive department. That's the cabinet members. But Trump intentionally picked people who were loyal to him. But he also picked people who were corrupt to the bone, right? He's corrupt to the bone. He picked a whole bunch of people who are corrupt to the bone, which means they might be able to be bought off or whatever. You know, there might be a path that way. You know, if the Congress said, hey, we're gonna, you know, make sure that you got billions, or we're gonna keep you in place, right? And you're gonna get a whole bunch of money, then do this, right? And they might do it, you know. So that's a way to do it. Let me see if let me catch up on chat here. Ad break. Okay, you said only buy essentials. Okay, we're caught up in chat. So then there's a whole procedure here of how that happens, and the president would probably object to it, and he has to send something to the Senate and the House of Representatives saying, "Hey, no, I'm able to be president. You can't take me out." Blah blah blah. And let's see, and if he does that, he gets to be president again, unless the vice president and the majority of the officers within 4 days send to the Senate and the House that the president is still goofy and can't be president anymore. That's what this section right here says. So first it says okay, when a majority of the principal officers in the cabinet, right, the president's cabinet and the vice president, say that the president isn't able to be president anymore, and they tell the Senate and the House of Representatives, then the vice president becomes president. But then the president, right, if he doesn't want to, if he thinks he's still capable, he will send something to the Senate and the House saying, no, I am able to do it. And then once he does that, then the cabinet and the vice president have 4 days to say, no, he's not good to be president, and then he's out, right? And and then from that point on, then Congress has to settle it, and they have 30 days, I think it says. Let's see. Congress should assembling they have to assemble within 48 hours. Within 21 days, they have to decide who's going to be, you know, if the president can still be president or not. And they need 2/3 of both houses to do that. So the bar is a little bit higher on that one. The bar to get him out using that process requires 2/3 of the House and 2/3 of the Senate. An impeachment only requires a majority in the House and 2/3 of the Senate. So the 25th Amendment requires a little bit higher bar. But once, I think if a majority of the cabinet, let's see, it says, if a majority of the cabinet says that they want to get that the president isn't able to do it, that's a pretty good right. That's a pretty good sign. I think a lot of Republicans and probably most of the Democrats at that point in the House would go along with that. But you never know. They would have to. I think they would have to have it figured out ahead of time. You know what I mean? Behind the scenes or whatever, secretly, they would have to have this thing figured out ahead of time and say, okay, yeah, we've got 2/3 of the House members that are going to go along with this, and 2/3 of the Senate, and buy off the cabinet members with whatever they want to get them to vote against the president, and that would work, I think. And another way to do it is to force them to resign somehow. They can, that's what they did with Nixon, right? With Nixon, they forced him to resign by saying, "Hey, we're going to impeach you, and we have enough votes." That's how, and they made him resign that way. With Trump, I doubt if he would do that. You know how he is, right? So they would have to. I don't know what they would have to do to get him. I mean, they'd have to. There'd have to be some life-threatening thing going on with him, I think, for him to, if it's saving his own skin, he would do it. He would resign. But I don't know how you do that. Another way to do it is to get the military involved, and that's when it becomes a little bit less legal, If you had like all of the generals, just show up at the White House and say, "All right, you're gone," That's another way to do it. What's he going to do at that point? What could anybody do at that point if they did that? So that's another way to do it. So that's probably the least preferred way to get rid of them. But there are lots of different ways to get rid of the president. Lots of different possibilities to get rid of them. But what's weird is that they don't seem to want to do that, and it's just beyond crazy why they don't do that. I just beyond comprehension. We've got we're following 1930s and early 40s Germany is what we're doing, what we're witnessing right now in the United States. And it's just beyond me why Congress is not responding. It's just when I saw Schumer stand up in the Senate today and say, "Yeah, we got a dictator and he's doing these evil things. And by the way, let's send him some more money so he can do his dictator evil things." It's like that's over. We're done, right? When Chuck Schumer says that, what can you do? The only thing we can do is just we have to do a revolution, right? It's got to be a revolution. It should be peaceful, of course. And the way you do a peaceful revolution is you stop working, you stop buying stuff. General strike, general boycott. Don't give them any money, don't give them any support, from the people, right? The people don't do that. The billionaires are going to support them all the time. And by the way, we got a billionaire, which is so ironic. I'm on this platform right now, and probably one of the reasons why I don't get a lot of viewers is because, I'm on a platform here owned by a billionaire who supports Trump, who supports dictatorship, who put a policy on his platform that said, "Hey, if you're talking about politics, if you're doing any democratic type stuff, we're going to flag your stream. We're going to flag it and say, evil, evil, warning, warning. This person is doing democracy." That's what he did. So the people have to do it. People have to. And so one of the things is if you know other people who who support democracy and don't like autocracy, then tell them to not work, don't support it, don't buy shit, don't send them a bunch of taxes and blah blah blah. And we'll just keep doing that. Just keep telling the more people we can get to do that, the better. So we got an ad starting here in just a few seconds. So I'm going to take a break here. All right, we'll take a break here. All right. It says ad starting. I don't know if it's started yet. I'm going to assume it's started. Okay, I'm going to take a break. One more thing. One more thing. All right. All right. So, yeah. I don't know. What you should do right now is read about what happened in Germany in the late 30s and early 40s. Read about that. Read about what happened, how it happened from mid 30s on up. What happened there, and the techniques that were used. You know, Hitler said, "Oh, the Jews and the Poles, the immigrants, right, are taking your jobs. Let's make them the enemies. The Jews are taking your job and taking your money and blah blah blah, and they're evil. Let's be against it." That's what Hitler did. And Trump is basically using Mein Kampf as his playbook. He has been since day one. Since when he went into office, first thing he did was he said, the Muslims are bad, and he tried to do a ban on having Muslims come into the country. You know, he's basically using Mein Kampf as his playbook, but instead of Jews, it's Muslims, and instead of Poles, it's Mexicans, or whatever. It's the same thing. It's the same thing, and he's just trying to get as much power as possible. And if you don't speak out, if you're not speaking out, if you have a platform, if you're a streamer, and I don't care if you have a stream that's trying to be happy all the time and play games and all that kind of stuff. If someone is not speaking out against this right now, then they support it. Silence is support. Silence is consent right now, because it's so bad. It's too bad not to. It's too bad to ignore, to not say something. If you don't say something, then you support it. And you may think that, oh, if I don't say anything, then maybe they won't come after me. Maybe they won't come and shoot me. It doesn't work that way. No, they'll come after you if for whatever reason. If you're somebody maybe you think, oh, I don't want to lose my money. Well, if you have money, then they'll come after you, because that's what they go for. They go for money and power. So they'll come and take your money. They'll come and take your family away. They'll do anything. So you got to speak out. I don't know how else to put it. If you got any platform at all, if you're a streamer, if you got a social media account that has a few followers or whatever, you got to speak out and not just say, oh, this is bad, but oh, this is what we got to do about it. We got to stop working. We got to call your boss, tell your boss you're not coming in to work anymore until the dictator's gone. Stop buying shit. Stop buying stuff that you don't need. Stop traveling. Don't buy gas, for God's sakes. These are all oil wars that are going on, right? Don't buy gas. Don't travel. And don't use the tax laws to not pay your taxes, because that's what the wealthy people do. And call your senators and tell them not to give the dictator any more money. Don't pass these bills. So, all right, I think that's it now. All right, thank you for watching, and take care. And please speak up. Say something. Call your senators. Let's get this done. Get this guy going. Take care. Bye.